Hi, I'm Michelle Susan Johnson. I am a native of Saginaw and a public scholar, particularly in the areas of space, place, and resistance. We lived in two different places, one on Salt Street, directly across the street, and then I moved around a lot. I lived in a couple of what I would call like the river neighborhoods connected to the automobile industry. That river became kind of significant in terms of many stories emerging about it as I was growing up, hearing about kind of unclear if it was GM or who had maybe buried barrels of toxic waste in the banks of the Saginaw River, and then when the river kind of comes along over the course of erosion, those kinds of things get revealed over time. My memories are very, very vivid about the soot that was emitted from the plant and our cars being covered sometimes with soot. If we can figure out here in Saginaw or in Michigan how to rectify that horrific situation that we've set up for ourselves and our descendants, then we're going to be ahead in an economic model. Our lawmakers need to kind of rethink the notions of land and river as industry, and to think about how we can build the capacity of those spaces to heal themselves. Then it makes absolute perfect sense to identify ways that we can generate industry that is providing solutions to the problems that our industry has created. This is a perfect example of environmental justice, because when we start to address the environmental impact on our land, on our air, on our rivers, we automatically have to look at where those things are taking place. As we approach 2018 and future elections, even be more stringent about asking those questions. Are you speaking for the river? Because when you speak for the river, then you're going to fundamentally address the issues, social justice issues, if you fully address them. Not if you're just trying to establish the river as a cool boat launch and a place for the middle class or the upper class to be able to have a view of this lovely historic Saginaw River. That's not the kind of way to restore the river. Identify what's your accountability structure that you've got for the businesses and the state agencies that have said they're going to steward this land. We know that the Great Lakes and the rivers and the small lakes are places that draw folks largely through the spring, summer, and early fall, but how are we going to protect not just that economic interest, but the environmental interest that underpins the very notion of destination? So it's not enough to say, I believe, we all believe that our planet should be a place that sustains us. What are you going to do about it? What have you done about it? Who are you partnering with? Who do you intend to partner with? Who are the people you want to invite to your table? What tables are you going around and sitting at, so that we have a real clear idea of where folks are coming from and where they are at that moment and who they've connected with. So demand their collaborations, their past collaborations, demand records of their positions that they've taken. These are folks I want to know, what have you been doing prior to this? But really, what have you done at this point? Because if you haven't done anything at this point, then let's move on to somebody who has. As voters, we need to hold people to standards. We need to call them every day or go visit them at their offices in Lansing, or if we have the opportunity and we're in DC, go visit them there, but call them. And to also, as voters, to check our own consumption, to identify how we play into the system that commodifies water. How many plastic bottles of water do we drink? Is our plastic bottles of water the solution? How many lights do we leave on? All these components. How many cars do we purchase? How often do we purchase a car? How often do we purchase a cell phone? Making some really significant conscious relationships between those elements of industry that we know have environmental impact, and being far more conscious in that. And so we are at a position, and we always have been in a position, where we have to try every strategy that we have. Voting is one of those strategies. And you start thinking about voting, you start recognizing that you have a voice, and that every voice that an individual has an impact. And so when we understand the power of one vote, we understand the power of one person and the the authenticity and the power of that individual to name their experience and to shape it. And so we have a responsibility. Anybody who's ever had someone who fought to vote or who died to vote or who struggled to vote has, I think, an inherent responsibility to act at least in that way, in addition to other ways. It's not the only solution.